Amazing transformation. Poor girl brings home a beggar, discovering he's a millionaire CEO. Lucy's hands trembled as she unlocked the door to their small apartment. Each jangle of her key echoed the weight of her long shift at the diner, her dreary surroundings almost swallowing her whole. But tonight was different. On the way home, she met Harold, the old man sitting quietly on the curb with a face lined by years of hardship. An electric pulse of recognition raced through her, a silent plea for connection that she understood all too well. As she hurried past him, the glance over her shoulder revealed her mother's furrowed brow, a silent reminder of their struggles. "Don't bring him home," her mother had said once before, fear etched into her features. Yet Lucy hesitated. Harold seemed more than just a beggar. His eyes contained stories, and despite her mother's warnings, she found herself drawn to him. "Hey, do you want some soup?" she finally blurted. The determination in her voice masked the chaos in her mind. Harold's eyes sparkled with gratitude, and in that moment, she chose compassion over fear. Weeks slipped by, and an unlikely friendship formed over steaming bowls of soup and shared stories. Harold's tales of resilience challenged Lucy's own beliefs, fueling a fire within her to chase the college dream that felt so distant. But whispers followed them through the town, judgment draping over her like a wet blanket. Friends questioned her decisions, dubbing Harold simply a beggar, yet she felt anchored in something more profound, a truth all of them seemed blind to. The tension escalated when Harold became ill and returned to the city for treatment. Alone with her thoughts in the dim light of her bedroom, Lucy's heart felt heavy. Swirling emotions suffocated her. Why had she brought him home? What if her mother had been right all along? But she couldn't shake the warmth Harold had offered, the belief that she was worth investing in when others remained indifferent. Days later, when an article surfaced revealing Harold's true identity as a successful CEO who renounced his wealth to aid the marginalized, panic gripped her. The townsfolk who had scorned him buzzed like bees, vowing to reweave their perceptions now that he was a millionaire. And there lay Lucy, caught in a web of conflicting emotions. Should she seize this fragile chance for her own escape, a brighter future just out of reach? Her dreams flickered like an old bulb, wrestling with the weight of morality and her heartfelt bond with Harold. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With Harold's return looming closer, Lucy stood before her open window, the night air heavy with anxiety. A decision lingered, and sweat coated her palms. She knew the impact of her next move could redefine everything: the struggles she faced, the sacrifices made to support her mother, and the undeniable connection she had forged with Harold. The doorbell rang, a hard knock shattering her thoughts. Her heart pounded against her ribs, refusing to comply as she opened the door. Harold stood there, weary yet vibrant in the moonlight, their eyes locking in a shared understanding of their journey. But with that connection came an evolving chaos within Lucy, unanswered questions screaming for resolution. Would she chase after the dreams ignited by Harold's stories, or stay rooted in the loyalty that had blossomed through shared hardship? The moment hung in the air, thick with uncertainty, leaving Lucy teetering between two worlds, unable to choose which path to tread. Lucy felt the weight of Harold's gaze, a mixture of recognition and challenge, intertwined with unspoken expectations. As he stepped inside, the apartment felt both like a sanctuary and a prison. She could sense the shift. The air thickened with possibilities and pitfalls alike. Harold, the man she had come to trust, now stood before her, the mysteries of his life teasing her ambitions even more. "Lucy," he began, his voice a soothing balm over her frayed nerves, "I know these past few weeks have changed us both. She studied his face, tracing the lines etched by years of experience, each wrinkle telling a story of resilience and depth. This wasn't just an old man. He was a mentor, a catalyst for her unrealized potential. Yet the townsfolk's ignorance weighed in. She questioned whether they could still see the same man she had come to know, or if their newfound adulation would taint her feelings. "What do you want to do now?" he asked, steering the conversation into uncharted waters. A straightforward question that left her floundering in indecision. Her dreams lay beneath layers of doubt, wrapped tightly by her loyalty to her mother. Could she truly pursue college without feeling like she betrayed those closest to her? Lucy took a breath, summoning the courage amassed through their friendship. "I want to go to college, Harold. I want to believe I can build a life beyond this, beyond the diner and this apartment." Despite knowing her mother would disapprove, Lucy's determination shone through. "Then do it," he replied, a simple command hanging in the air between them. "But understand, it's not just about leaving. It's about what you're willing to face when you pursue that life." His words pushed through her uncertainties, igniting a flicker of bravery. "But what if it feels like leaving her behind?" Lucy's voice wavered, lodged in the tension of her loyalty and her desire for a different path. "Life isn't about the easy choices. It's about the right ones," Harold replied, his eyes steady and unwavering. "You have more fight in you than you know. You just need to trust yourself." As the night deepened, so did Lucy's introspection. What skills had she buried beneath her daily grind? Could she apply the same resilience she learned from Harold? A concealing ember of realization sparked. She had always been a survivor, earning tips at the diner, weathering the judgments of friends, and now nurturing a friendship that would change her life. "I need to make a plan," she said, a note of resolve weaving through her words. The thought echoed with newfound clarity. Committing her ambitions to paper could make the abstract tangible. If she could sectionalize each goal into smaller tasks, maybe she could turn those dreams into a reality. Harold nodded, an approving smile crinkling the corners of his mouth. "Then let's map it out. What do you want to study? What are the schools you're considering?" With dialogue unfolding, Lucy felt liberated. They spent hours sketching possibilities as the moon waned, ideas swirling amidst laughter and somber truths. Each word exchanged drew them closer, forging a bond sewn from mutual aspirations. Yet, as they delved deeper, a shadow still lurked. Her mother's potential reaction loomed heavy in the corners of her mind. Would it be another confrontation, another sacrifice? The fear of disappointing the only family she had threatened to crack her newfound determination. Tomorrow loomed larger in her mind, promising both hope and doubt. The thought of her mother's response to her decisions gripped her heart. She understood the precarious balance of ambition and familial duty, and it terrified her. "Remember, Lucy," Harold said, as if reading her thoughts, "the people who truly care about you will want you to discover yourself. Don't let fear hold you back." As dawn approached, Lucy faced the inevitable trials ahead: discussions, decisions, and possibly heartache. But somewhere within her, a visceral understanding flourished. Growth required confronting adversity head-on. With Harold's significant presence guiding her steps, Lucy knew she was ready. The path ahead lay uncertain, but the first light of dawn marked a beginning. Would she choose to step beyond her confines, or would the shadows of doubt anchor her in place? The decision rested at her fingertips, eager for action, yet she grappled with the choice that lay ahead. She still had to confront her mother, a daunting prospect, and reveal what she had planned. No matter the outcome, she realized that a confrontation would be necessary. It was part of her path to true independence. The thought lingered, amplifying her anticipation like electricity in the air, as she quietly prepared to face the person who had guarded her heart. The moment had come to address the conflict. Would she emerge with respect for her choices, or would the weight of her mother's disappointment crumble her efforts? The horizon beckoned, a test of her resolve quickly approaching. Lucy stood in front of her mirror, her reflection a canvas of conflict and determination. The sunlight streamed in, illuminating the mess of thoughts swirling in her mind. Today was the day she had to confront her mother, and with it the duality of her life, the shadow of her family's expectations and the bright promise of her dreams. She rehearsed her words silently, but each attempt felt hollow, drained of sincerity. "Mom, I want to go to college." The weight of that simple declaration jarred her, heightening the stakes of what felt like a brewing storm. Each utterance in her head felt like a challenge, a battle of wills between past obedience and future ambitions. As she prepared breakfast, her hands moved with an automatic grace, though her mind was a turbulent sea. Every sizzle from the pan echoed her anxious thoughts. What would her mother say? Would she understand, or would anger rise like a tide, crashing against the fragile barriers Lucy had built around her dreams? Over the clinking dishes and the hum of the coffee maker, Lucy could almost hear her mother's voice, practical and unyielding. "You have a job here, Lucy. This is our life." That voice, once a source of comfort, now lingered like a specter, reminding her of the loyalty she owed, but also the aspirations she risked losing. With breakfast on the table, she found her mother lounging in the dim light of the living room, flipping through a magazine. The sight of her mother's weary eyes tugged at Lucy's heart. It was a reminder of the sacrifices and struggles that had shaped their life together. "Mom, can we talk?" Lucy's voice was firm yet soft, revealing her intent but betraying her nerves. Her mother looked up, the magazine slipping from her fingers. The brief moment of silence that followed felt infinite, a prelude to the clash that was about to unfold. "What is it, Lucy?" Her mother's tone was cautious, as if sensing the tension coiling in the air between them. Taking a breath, Lucy steadied herself. "I want to go to college. I want to study nursing." The words spilled out, each one brimming with the investment of her newfound ambition. She watched her mother's expression closely, scanning for disapproval which she feared might appear like a thundercloud. There it was, a furrowed brow, the faintest shake of the head. "You want to leave this place? Leave us? Leave me?" Each accusation sounded like nails on a chalkboard, visceral and jarring. Lucy felt the sting of betrayal pierce her heart, but she refused to let the emotional retaliation bury her resolve. "Mom, staying here isn't the only way to be with you. I can help us more if I have an education. I want to build a life for myself, for us." The room hung heavy between them, a battlefield of conflicting desires. Lucy's pulse quickened, fear coiling tightly around her chest. This moment would set the tone for everything to come. Her mother remained silent, her eyes narrowing as she— Lucy's aspirations. It was as if time stood still, each second stretching out painfully. "What am I supposed to do, Lucy? I can't." "Please, don't make this about me leaving. It's about growing." Lucy's voice was edged in desperation, her emotions surfacing like wildfire. "I love you, but I can't abandon my dreams because they scare you." The tension finally broke, Lucy shaken as she saw the tears welling in her mother's eyes. "Do you think this has been easy for me? For us?" "I know it hasn't, but I have to try, Mom. This is my chance." Her mother's silence spoke volumes, a complex mix of fear, anger, and deep-seated love. In that moment, Lucy understood. The fight was not just for her future, but for her mother to acknowledge her as a person with her own aspirations. "I need you to trust me," she whispered, her voice cracking but firm. For the first time, Lucy felt the weight of expectations shift, and in it, a flicker of hope ignited. Would her mother find a way to embrace this evolving version of Lucy, or would fear close the gap between dreams and home? As the silence loomed like a specter, Lucy's heart raced, not with doubt, but with a burgeoning confidence. She had stepped into her own arena, ready to confront not just her mother, but the limitations that had haunted her for so long. Outside, the world moved on, indifferent to her trials, as she braced herself for the next move in this delicate dance of revelation. With each embrace of her truth, she felt herself transform, even if it meant wading through uncertainty first. And amidst the turmoil, she realized that this wasn't merely a conversation. It was her manifesto for change. The question remained, though. Could she remain resolute, even if her mother's heart remained closed? Lucy stood there, heart racing, as the stagnant air between her and her mother slowly began to shift. She could see the myriad emotions flickering across her mother's face, a kaleidoscope of hurt, fear, and resistance. That shared moment, heavy with unspoken words, felt both freeing and suffocating. Taking a moment to collect herself, Lucy leaned in, determined to express her purpose with clarity. I need to believe I can do this, not just for me, but for us. Mom, I've thought about this for so long. I can see a future where I'm not just helping you now, but actually laying a foundation for something better. Her mother's sharp intake of breath suggested that her words were penetrating, chipping away at the hardened exterior that had crafted their lives thus far. Lucy pressed on. Nursing means I could provide, genuinely help people, and in time, I could help us too. For every argument Lucy presented, her mother seemed equipped with counterpoints. But what about the responsibilities here? The chores, the errands? Each question echoed the confines that had previously restrained Lucy, holding her back. I can help with those things. Countered, frustration bubbling at her mother's refusal to see the broader picture. I can balance school and responsibilities. It's not either or. I want to expand my life while still supporting you. Don't you want that for me? The mention of her mother's desire for Lucy felt like a stakes-raising move, pinning the older woman against the silent expectations she had cultivated all these years. It suddenly struck Lucy that perhaps it wasn't just fear that kept her mother from understanding. It was a deep-seated love, a protectiveness against the unknown. The longer they stood in this charged silence, the less doubt Lucy felt. Each heartbeat resonated with a newfound sense of resolve. This was more than a conversation with her mother. It was a test of her personal mettle, an exploration of her willingness to step beyond familiar confines. Minutes passed before her mother's voice finally broke the silence, a whisper now, stripped of its earlier authority. You really think you can do all of this, Lucy? Yes, I do, Lucy replied, her voice steady. I need you to see that this is more than leaving. It's about evolving. With the momentum built from their exchange, a switch flicked in Lucy. She realized she held more power than she had ever given herself credit for. This confrontation was not just for her dreams, but also for opening a dialogue with her mother that could ultimately redefine both their lives. Yet, as her mother's brows knitted together in contemplation, Lucy felt a tremor of doubt sneak back in. What if all her efforts were futile? What if her mother's understanding remained locked behind years of tradition and fear? It won't be easy, her mother finally said, voice low but steady, as if now acknowledging the gravity of the moment. You need to promise me that you'll return home on weekends, that you'll help out as much as you can. Of course, Mom, but I also need you to let me find my own path, even if it's rocky at first. The fragile threads of their relationship trembled under the weight of this commitment, but Lucy felt an unwavering hope begin to take form. This was the beginning of something transformative. She might stumble, she might fall, but she was choosing to step forward into a future she yearned for, challenging the shadows of her past. As the conversation meandered, breaking ground on the chiseled rock of their history, Lucy could sense the burgeoning connection between her aspirations and her mother's fears. Yet the deeper question lingered. Was her mother truly ready to embrace this change? Tomorrow, I'll help you clear the garden. I just want to be sure that we're on the same page, her mother finally said, parting the clouds of tension hanging overhead. Lucy felt a rush of hope as they touched a tentative alliance, but knew the work ahead was just as critical as this encounter. The next day would require more than just communication. Action would be needed to truly forge the path she longed for. And as she turned to leave the room, a thought crossed her mind. This first leap into adulthood might scare her, but there was no turning back now. The question of whether her mother could fully let go still loomed large, casting a shadow over what could be. What adjustments were they both willing to make to bridge this widening gap? Lucy awoke the next morning with a sense of apprehension stirring within her. The dawn light seeped through the curtains, casting gentle rays across her room, illuminating the walls that had witnessed countless dreams and fears. For so long, her aspirations had felt nearly mythical, blurred by the heaviness of familial responsibility. Now, with a clear path edging into her view, she felt an undeniable urgency to solidify her resolve. As she geared up for the day, the gravelly sound of her mother's voice resonated in her mind, replaying that earnest promise to help. It was a reminder of the delicate bridge they were attempting to construct. Would today serve as a cornerstone or a stumbling block? The thought of clearing the garden loomed in her consciousness, not just as a task, but as a symbol of rebirth, of fresh beginnings. The sun hung high when Lucy ventured outside, meeting her mother already working in the garden. There were patches of interwoven weeds, their tangled roots illustrated years of neglect. Lucy approached cautiously, sensing the tension that still lingered between them. Her heart pounded as she knelt beside her mother and glanced from the flourishing plants to the ramshackle portions that spoke of neglect's heavy-handed touch. "Hey," Lucy said, tentatively breaking the quiet. "Hey," her mother replied, without looking up, her tone curt. Lucy picked at a handful of weeds, working silently alongside the woman who had shaped so much of her existence. The rhythm of pulling weeds and tossing them aside served as a backdrop to the swirling thoughts in Lucy's mind. She wanted to discuss their commitments, the shifts in their relationship, but retracing any familiar narrative seemed daunting. Silence hung in the air thick enough to keep her questions at bay. Then, amidst the clumps of dirt and errant roots, her mother finally spoke. "You know, your father wanted nothing more than for you to go to school, but—" She hesitated, as though weighing her words. "I feared for you. So much can go wrong when you step outside your comfort zone." The admission pierced through Lucy like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Fear shouldn't hold us back, Mom. I've realized that stepping outside my comfort zone is where I can truly discover who I am." Her mother turned, disbelief flickering in her eyes. "It's not just your comfort zone that's at stake. What about the rest of us, this family? You're talking about reshaping your future, but it's going to change everything." Lucy's breath hitched. Change was terrifying. It was also necessary. "I want to help us, not only by fulfilling responsibilities, but also by living out my ambitions. If I succeed, it lifts us all. We can build together." The silence that followed felt heavy and stormy. Lucy could sense her mother's struggle, the instinctual protective barrier still rising. It dawned on her that she had not only been breaking through her own barriers, but also pressing against her mother's layers of resilience. "Why do you think nursing is the key to all of this?" her mother finally asked, arms crossing defensively. "Because I can connect with people. I can heal them," Lucy answered fervently, feeling conviction swell within her. "It's not just a job. It's a calling. And I can bring that experience home. I'll be able to show you, show us, that there's a life outside of this." Reading the small cracks in her mother's armor, Lucy dared to believe that change might permeate this once stagnant soil. As the discussion continued, Lucy uncovered her mother's stories, fears tethered in the ground beneath them. Each revelation felt as though they were pulling more than weeds. They were uprooting years of unexpressed thoughts and burdens. With hands caked in dirt, but growing lighter, Lucy began to understand the deeper connection with their past and what it could unlock for their future. Yet, even amidst their budding dialogue, shadows fell over Lucy's mind. Was she truly ready for the world of nursing?
Could she juggle her commitments? Would her mother allow herself the same courage to adapt? Before she had time to spiral into self-doubt, a distant sound broke through, the persistent ring of a phone from inside the house. It felt like a distraction, or perhaps an omen. As they briefly halted their labor, Lucy's curiosity stirred. What could the call possibly mean for their ongoing conversation? Clutching her garden gloves tightly, Lucy glanced back to her mother, a flicker of determination igniting her spirit. It was time to move past talk. They needed action, both in the garden and in their relationship. But now, as the phone's ringing faded into silence, a new layer of uncertainty hung in the air. What awaited her on the other side of that call? Lucy's heart raced, eclipsing all other tumultuous thoughts. Today was crucial, but the ramifications of unexpected news might outweigh anything she anticipated. Before Lucy had a chance to process her swirling thoughts, her mother stood abruptly, brushing dirt from her hands. The call's vibration thrummed in the silence, reverberating through the garden. "I'll check," Lucy said, standing up, brushing her own hands against her jeans. A tentative hope flickered in her chest. Perhaps this call would provide clarity, a guidepost on the road ahead. She dashed into the house, her heart racing. The phone was perched on the kitchen counter, screen lit up with an unknown number. She picked it up, hesitating for a breath before answering. "Hello?" A voice, crisp and professional, greeted her. "Hi, is this Lucy Matthews? I'm calling from the local nursing school. We received your application." Lucy's breath caught in her throat, excitement and trepidation flooding her system. She had expended so much energy into that application, pouring her dreams, aspirations, and fears into it. "Yes, this is she," she managed to reply, grateful her voice didn't betray her anxiety. "Great. We've completed our review, and we're pleased to inform you that you have been accepted into the program." The world around her blurred for a moment. Acceptance was a daunting feather on her heart, a weighty confirmation of the path she longed to take. "Thank you," she whispered, the words catching at the edge of disbelief. "We will send you details about orientation," the voice continued, but Lucy struggled to focus on the particulars. The gears in her mind whirred faster. How would she balance studies, family obligations, and the emotional distance with her mother? Would this victory shift the dynamics of their relationship further? "Lucy?" the caller prompted again. "Sorry, yes, I'm here." She breathed deeply, collecting herself. "Thank you for the opportunity. I won't let you down. We look forward to seeing you flourish," the caller concluded warmly, the charm of their words sparking a small flame of possibility within her. As she hung up, she stood frozen for a brief moment, staring into the distance like a deer caught in headlights. The implications of her acceptance crashed down on her like a wave. She had taken step one into a world that resonated with her aspirations, but the enormity of it weighed on her. She was on the precipice of transforming her life. Yet what lay on the other side of that transformation? What awaited her in this uncharted territory? Hearing footsteps, Lucy quickly composed herself before her mother entered the room, wiping the dirt from her hands on a rag. Her mother's expression shifted from concern to curiosity as she saw the look of disbelief on Lucy's face. "What's wrong?" "I got in," Lucy blurted out, her words tumbling over themselves in excitement. "I'm going to nursing school." Time seemed to freeze, and a silence wrapped around them. Lucy observed her mother's face shift, contraction, hesitation, then an almost imperceptible softening. "Really?" her mother asked, the question heavy with implications. "That's great." Lucy could hear the underlying tension in her mother's voice. The acceptance felt like both triumph and a threat. Would this success provoke her mother's fears further? Would it build bridges or drive wedges? "Mom, I want to help us. I can learn things that matter, things that will help everyone." Lucy stepped closer, searching for a connection that wasn't mired by past hurts. This is our chance. Seconds stretched, each heartbeat echoing louder in the silence, until finally her mother exhaled, a deep breath weighted with years of unexpressed fears. "Just remember, you're still a part of this family. You can't forget us." Lucy nodded, feeling urgency ripple through her body. "I won't. I want to build our future together."
As they met each other's gaze, Lucy felt a blend of trepidation and hope. There was an acknowledgement of change on the horizon, a shifting landscape. Yet her mother's resolve, that innate instinct to protect, still loomed ahead like a shadow prophesying conflict. "Let's keep talking about this," Lucy ventured cautiously. "We need to navigate this together." The conversation felt like the first tentative steps towards reconciliation, yet even as Lucy offered an olive branch, the uncertainty remained. How would the tides of change affect their relationship? Just as the doubts began to churn again, a knock echoed from the front door, interrupting their moment. An unexpected disturbance that might unravel the fragile threads they were weaving. Lucy's stomach tightened. What could this new visitor bring into their lives? With a shared look of apprehension, they turned toward the clamor, the weight of unspoken fears eclipsed for a moment by the prospect of unforeseen possibilities that loomed on the other side of the door. Lucy's heart raced as she exchanged glances with her mother, both caught in a moment of uncertainty that felt palpable. The knock at the door was insistent, almost demanding, shattering the fragile peace they had just attempted to establish. Lucy felt a mix of dread and curiosity rise within her. What sort of disruption could await them just beyond the threshold? "Should I get it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother nodded, a flicker of apprehension crossing her features. Yes, it might be important. Lucy took a determined step forward, each movement laden with the weight of change that loomed in the air. The closer she got to the door, the more she felt a mixture of fear and excitement about the new chapter she was about to embark on, both in nursing school and her strained relationship with her mother. She hesitated at the door, her hand hovering over the knob. What if this visitor brought bad news, or, worse yet, renewed conflict? She twisted the knob and pulled it open, revealing a man who appeared disheveled but sharp-eyed. His clothes were worn, and thick stubble adorned his jaw, but there was something commanding about him, an unassailable presence that belied his current state. "Excuse me, I'm looking for some assistance," he began, and Lucy could feel the weight of his voice settle heavily between them. The directness of his gaze caught her off guard, and she felt compelled to invite him in, her instincts pushing her toward compassion. "Sure, please, come in," she offered, motioning him into their modest living room. As he crossed the threshold, her mother remained cautiously behind Lucy, studying the stranger with a protective gaze. "Are you okay?" Lucy asked, posture softening as she assessed him. "I've fallen on hard times," he admitted, a shadow crossing his eyes. "But I have skills to offer if someone would be inclined to give me a chance." The way he spoke, with an undercurrent of hidden potential, stirred something within Lucy, awakening her growing desire to understand and help others. The longing to make an impact, to do good, pressed against her thoughts. "What kind of skills?" her mother interjected, still wary but unable to hide her curiosity. "I was a management consultant for years, a strategist of sorts. I can assist in planning, organization, and even communication." He paused, watching Lucy with a penetrating intensity that made her feel seen in a way she rarely experienced. "I'm just in a temporary situation." Lucy's mind raced. There, wrapped in neglect and hardship, was someone like her, lost but with potential. She found herself wanting to reach out, to bridge the gap between their very different worlds. "What if we work together? I'm about to start nursing school, so I could use someone with experience on my side," she propositioned, surprising even herself with the boldness of her offer. The man studied her, a flicker of surprise crossing his face before a smile broke through the gloom. "You're quite ambitious for someone so young. Nursing school is no small feat." "I want to make a difference. I can't waste this opportunity," Lucy said, her voice firm, a new determination solidifying her stance. "I hope you're open to rebuilding, that you'd consider helping me find ways to improve and connect." The man nodded slowly,
as if contemplating the weight of her offer. "You remind me of someone I once knew," he replied, shifting slightly as though the conversation was awakening long-buried memories. The remnants of doubt within her mother melted away as curiosity took hold. She stepped forward, puncturing the bubble of silence that engulfed them. "What's your name?" "Elias," he said, offering a hint of vulnerability beneath the surface. Lucy felt an exhilarating rush. Elias could be her mentor, the catalyst propelling her toward her future. She sensed the scrappy resilience that resonated between them, the urge to rise and reclaim what had been lost. "Let's navigate this journey together," she offered, her eyes shining with eagerness. As they exchanged thoughts about aspirations and obstacles, the door that had creaked open to possibility felt sturdier, less precarious. But Lucy couldn't shake the feeling that unforeseen challenges were lurking just beyond the horizon. Elias had hinted at stories untold, wisdom to share, and hidden struggles yet to be revealed. Just when hope felt tangible, a sudden realization struck her: how intertwined their fates might be. What depths of transformation rested on the other side of their shared journey? And before she could frame the magnitude of the situation, her phone buzzed with a text, casting a shadow over the burgeoning connection. It was from the nursing school. There was a mandatory orientation meeting they expected her to attend, one that could forever alter the fragile path they were mapping out together. What would Lucy choose? Would the orientation clear her path or complicate it? The urgency of decisions loomed over her like a cloud, threatening to spill its rain into an unpredictable future. Lucy's heart thumped against her chest as she stared at the text message, the words blurring momentarily.
Mandatory nursing orientation at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Attendance required. The excitement of discussing her future with Elias began to dissolve beneath the weight of impending obligations. She glanced at Elias, whose expression had shifted to one of anticipation, as if sensing her inner turmoil. A fleeting worry invaded her thoughts. Was she already sacrificing an opportunity that could define her path? The gravity of nursing school was dawning on her, amplifying her insecurities. What if she wasn't ready? What if she failed? "I need to figure out how to balance this," she murmured. Elias's brow furrowed slightly, and he leaned forward, his eyes assessing her. "What's going through your mind, Lucy?" The way he said her name made it feel like a challenge, a call to self-reflection that stirred her once more to articulate her thoughts. "The orientation is tomorrow, and it will set the tone for everything. The program, the professors, my classmates. I don't want to miss it, but I also feel something important brewing here." She gestured between them, frustration creeping into her voice. "We can brainstorm strategies to maximize your time," Elias suggested, his tone calming, almost mentor-like. "That orientation doesn't have to pull you away from what we could build together." Lucy took a breath, grateful for his support. What if I struggle to manage my time? What if everyone else is more prepared? The duality of her aspirations clashed within her, becoming a nurse and nurturing her relationship with Elias, who now felt pivotal in her journey. Preparation is a key component, Lucy, but sometimes it's not about what you know, it's about how much you're willing to learn, he replied, his expression unwavering. Use your vulnerability as fuel. Share your concerns at the orientation. Build connections. Show them who you are, where you come from. His words lingered, each syllable breaking through her wall of fear. She felt a flicker of resolve, the smallest crack in her self-doubt allowing a ray of clarity to seep in. You're right. I need to embrace this uncertainty instead of running from it. Undetermined to let fear linger, she began formulating a plan, jotting down her two-pronged approach. Attend the orientation to establish herself among her peers, and begin meeting with Elias regularly to harness his insights. After the orientation, we can evaluate your experience and tackle what's next, Elias encouraged, mirroring her focus as he leaned over the notepad, his presence almost magnetic. Engaged in this new alliance, Lucy felt a swell of purpose building within.
The anticipation of her first steps into nursing school, mixed with the promise of mentorship, ignited a determination she didn't know she possessed. Yet, as her excitement grew, so did an unsettling notion that the challenges would not merely come from within her. Elias, too, was cloaked in an aura of secrecy that piqued her curiosity. What shadows were cast by his past? The evening deepened around them, and the conversation shifted to tangible goals and actionable plans. They brainstormed ways she could intertwine her studies with her budding passion for helping others, how she could bring creativity into nursing, potentially focusing on patient communications. As their exchange unfolded, another message pinged on her phone, this time from an unknown number. "This is your final warning. Tomorrow may have ramifications you aren't prepared for. Keep your eyes open." An icy shiver trickled down her spine. She stared at Elias, whose brow was furrowed, as if he too sensed a shift, an undercurrent of tension that threatened to disrupt the burgeoning partnership they were crafting. What was lurking in the shadows? Would this be a step toward a brighter future, or had she just opened the door to unforeseen danger? Lucy realized that the stakes were rising, and her resolve would need to be tested sooner than anticipated. With uncertainty hardening her heart, her grip tightened around her phone. The signs were multiplying, and she was teetering on the brink of a revelation that promised to change everything. Would the orientation solidify her control over her future, or would it unravel everything she aimed to construct with Elias? The clock was ticking, and the moment of truth loomed ahead. The next morning, Lucy's anxiety coiled tightly around her chest, making each breath a conscious effort. She dressed in professional attire, choosing a crisp white blouse and navy slacks, a visual distancing from her doubts. Each piece she donned felt like armor, preparing her for the unknown battlefield of nursing school. Standing in front of the mirror, she searched her reflection, seeking the radiance of ambition. She needed to exude confidence, despite feeling like a fragile leaf in the midst of a storm. As she entered the sprawling campus, the buzz of chatter enveloped her, a chaotic symphony, hinting at shared dreams and individual fears. Her heart pounded in rhythm with the sound of footsteps echoing on linoleum floors, a cacophony that drowned out her internal monologue. She spotted clusters of students, their laughter cutting through the air like blades, and felt a stab of isolation. Who was she amidst this sea of apparent ease and camaraderie? Navigating the hallway, she clutched her notebook tightly, her plan swirling in her mind. What had Elias said? Use her vulnerability as fuel. A reminder that resonated deeply, but there was still a gnawing question. Could authenticity truly transform fear into strength? The orientation room was filled with bright, eager faces. Clusters of students whispered and giggled, their collective energy a stark contrast to the unease that tinged her thoughts. She took a deep breath, anchoring herself to a mantra that stirred within her. I am here to learn. I am here to grow. It felt almost ritualistic, a way to cast off the doubts clinging to her like shadows. As the session began, the head of the nursing program addressed the crowd with warmth and enthusiasm. Lucy listened intently, her hope flaring with every encouraging word. Yet, with each success story, her mind spiraled into a self-deprecating spiral. What if she didn't measure up? The seedlings of comparison took root, threatening to overshadow her budding resolve. Welcome to nursing school. This program is challenging, but you will build skills not just to succeed, but to change lives, the director emphasized, and Lucy clung to the sound of those words. Change lives. She could feel it resonating deeper within her, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. After initial introductions, the group transitioned to a core exercise aimed at facilitating connections. Lucy could feel her heart race as her name was called. She stood, addressing a mix of curious and supportive faces. Hi, I'm Lucy. This is all quite new for me, and I'm excited yet nervous. Her honesty felt raw yet liberating, and for the first time she noticed nods of understanding and faint smiles creeping across her classmates' faces. "Fear's normal, Lucy. We're all in this together," someone called out, and laughter bubbled around her. A tangible shift occurred. The world felt a little less daunting. She was beginning to understand the power of vulnerability, not just in herself, but in others. After the session, she engaged in small conversations, feeling the tentative bonds forming among her peers. They shared not only laughter, but their stories, fears, and aspirations. Among them, Lucy recognized a sense of belonging slowly stitching the frayed edges of her self-worth. As she left the orientation, Lucy's phone buzzed. The sensation of dread returned, yet she pushed it aside. The need for vigilance nagged at her, but this newfound connection began to outweigh the shadows looming in her mind. That evening, she met with Elias to review her experience, but the encounter was tinged with an intensity that hadn't existed before. She was someone transformed. "I felt the fear ripple through me, but I also felt the potential. I even shared my worries, and it was liberating," she proclaimed, her eyes shining with newfound determination. Elias watched her intently, and a flicker of approval danced across his face. "You're beginning to realize your own strength," he remarked, but his tone suggested something deeper, a warning veiled within praise. Just as Lucy opened her mouth to respond, her phone chimed again, this time flashing an ominous message. "Stay away from them, or there will be consequences." A chill ran down her spine. The cracks in her newfound confidence widened, plunging her back into uncertainty. The very community she had just begun to embrace now felt fraught with hidden dangers. In that instant, she knew the stakes had elevated. The journey ahead wasn't just about navigating nursing school, but about unearthing the truths that intertwined her new path, her relationships, and the looming shadows that threatened to consume it all. What would she uncover if she chose to delve deeper? Could she confront the sinister edge that brushed the periphery? The necessity of her mission had transformed into urgency. More than her aspirations were at stake now. Her very safety teetered on the precipice of discovery. Lucy woke to the dawn breaking softly through her window, each ray of light illuminating the uncertainty that shadowed her heart. After last night's unsettling message, her mind whirred with questions and anxiety. Her acceptance into nursing school felt like both a blessing and a curse. The burgeoning excitement was now layered with fear. Who was seeking to threaten her newfound path? Determination replaced despair as she remembered her resolve to embrace vulnerability. She would not let the darkness overtake her. Today was about taking control, about showing up not only for herself, but for those who believed in her. At breakfast, Lucy's mother watched her with a wary gaze, clearly concerned with her earlier turmoil. "How was orientation? Have you made any friends?" "Yeah, it was great. I met some really wonderful people," Lucy replied, pushing the unease aside. The familial bond that had been strained needed rebuilding, and today seemed like the right time to fortify that connection. But the pressing worry clawed at her mind, that she had a gravity pulling her backward while she yearned to move forward. "Mom, can we talk?" Lucy's voice bracketed determination and hesitation. Her mother paused, eyes narrowing slightly. She knew when that tone surfaced, a serious discussion hovered just around the corner. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Heart racing, Lucy steadied herself. "I want you to support me in nursing school. I think it could be a game changer for us. It's not just a job, it's a way to make a difference, and I want you to be part of it." As the words left her lips, she felt strengthened, as if each syllable forged a link in their chain of trust. Her mom's brow furrowed deeper, anxious as ever. "You're still just starting. It won't be easy to balance everything at once." "I get that," Lucy replied, the warmth of her voice contrasting with the chill in her mother's demeanor. "But I'm committed to this. I see a future that doesn't just mean surviving, but thriving. You taught me how to fight for what I believe in." For a moment, they held each other's gaze, and the weight of silence pressed heavily around them. "I've realized that all of this is possible only if we move together," Lucy added, a slight tremor in her voice that dripped sincerity. Her mother inhaled deeply and nodded, a step forward in acknowledging her daughter's blooming independence. "If you're sure about your path, I won't stand in your way. But communication is key. I need to know you won't lose sight of us." Lucy felt a rush of relief wash over her. "I promise I won't. We'll navigate it together." The tension broke slightly, a chink in the wall of unspoken fears separating them. Fueled with the strength she'd gained from her conversation, Lucy continued her day. Each class was packed with information, jargon swirling about healing, physiology, and ethics. She absorbed knowledge like a sponge, her heart swelling with hope as she envisioned herself in scrubs, making a tangible impact on people's lives. But as the week progressed, so did the lurking shadows. Another message arrived, ominous and menacing. "You can't escape your past. It always finds you." Lucy's heart pounded with dread. She shared her concern with Elias, who sat opposite her in the cafe they frequented. He listened attentively, brows furrowed under the weight of her words. "This is about more than the orientation. Someone knows about you and wants to exploit it," he stated, his voice low but urgent. "We need to unearth what's going on before it spirals." Beneath the warmth of their friendship lingered an unyielding tension, the shadows of truth straining against the light they had begun to forge together. "But how?" Lucy asked, frustration merging with fear. Elias ran a hand through his tousled hair. "The only way to combat the unknown is by facing it head-on. We need to investigate, to understand the web that's been spun. You need to continue connecting with your peers. They might hold pieces to this puzzle." Lucy nodded, a sense of camaraderie igniting her spirit. "Okay, let's do this. I need to know who is behind these threats so I can fight back." As the week culminated, Lucy felt a shift within herself. She was no longer a timid girl lingering in shadows, but a beacon of determination. She gathered her classmates for a study group, building bonds while unraveling their shared struggles. Trust grew as they exchanged tales of uncertainty, hardships, and fierce ambitions. The barriers erected within her heart began to crumble. Finally, something began to feel synchronized. They were not just individual threads, but part of a richer tapestry, a burgeoning family. One night, as they gathered in their cramped study space, Lucy found herself sharing her hopes and fears. "I never expected nursing to lead me here, not just as a profession, but as a chance to rewrite my story," she confessed, her voice thick with emotion but strong with newfound conviction. They supported her as she unveiled her past worries. The shadows lurking still loomed outside like the fading daylight at dusk. "You faced those shadows, Lucy, and that takes courage," a classmate remarked, their resonant words igniting a fresh fire in her spirit. In the days that followed, Lucy and Elias continued their investigation. Together, they pieced together information and reached out to the administration for guidance. It was a cautious step, but one that turned the tide. They learned of past incidents involving threats tied to the nursing program, the lingering shadows of a disgraced former student whose envy had festered. This revelation gave Lucy clarity. She realized the only way to truly claim her path and protect her ambitions was through open dialogue, both with her peers and her mother. Together, they approached the officials, and the school promised measures to safeguard their students. The support from her fellow students felt warm and bolstering, weaving them deeper into the fabric of solidarity. One evening, Lucy found herself reflecting on it all. She was preparing to call her mother, needing to share what she had unearthed, to show that vulnerability was not weakness but strength. As the phone rang, her heart raced. Not only did she want her mother's support, but she sensed they were shifting toward each other. "Hey, Mom," she said when her mother answered. "I think it's time we talked about what's been happening and how we can move forward together." Listening deeply, Lucy's thoughts crystallized. The past had indeed intertwined with the present, but rather than clutching at shadows, they were transforming into allies on her journey. As conversations unfolded, so did trust. Her mother's protective nature softened, melding with Lucy's fierce independence. Together, they were evolving into more than mother and daughter. They were becoming partners in resilience. With healing seeds planted between them, Lucy could finally see a path branching out. She acknowledged fears would still shadow her journey, but this time they had forged connections strong enough to face anything. The shadows that once loomed now twinkled like stars in the night sky, a testament to their tenacity. Lucy had taken strides not only toward her dream career, but also newfound trust in her familial bonds. As dawn approached, she found strength mingling with hope, ready to champion her purpose in nursing. She had claimed her autonomy. The transformation that had begun within her was now palpable, bright with promise. This was not just the conclusion of one chapter, but the compelling beginnings of a life cocooned in purpose and driven by dreams. Now, here lies the moment to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our community. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to share this. Your voice matters in the stories of personal overcoming.